Jim Clark is here, and he's with O'Connell Children's Shelter in Lawrence. And then Casey Angels, Judy Tina is here to talk about programs here to Dream, which does mentoring, and the Love Box program, which supports foster families. So let's start with our prayer. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. God, our Father, through the loving sacrifice of your Son, Jesus Christ, you have given a home to us and all the forsaken. Give us the eyes of Christ to see the vulnerable children and families in our midst. Give us hearts that break for what breaks the heart of Jesus. Encouraged by the example of Saint Joseph, Bosco's father, the Lord, inflame us with the compassion of your Holy Spirit to make our homes and parishes places of love, support, and protection for the children and the families and gospel. Amen. Come on in. Come on in. There's a sign-up sheet right over there. You don't mind? Sign in. Yeah, not up. Sign in. You're not committed to anything. I promise. Okay. So we'll start with Randy. If you'll come on up and tell us a little bit about what KBC does.
We wanted to do these one. You wanted these?
Or, yeah, that's okay. Well, you're right, I did, but that's okay. Let Randy talk and then we'll.
All right, guys, I just handed out folders to all of you. I just kind of wanted to talk through those real quick with you. We put on our annual report that tells a little bit of what KBC, or the work that KBC does. So you guys can read through that when you have some time. On the other side, you're going to find a list of items that we take as donation and items that we don't take. We get a lot of people calling about things that our kids would never use. So we just always include that just so you know what you can share on to somebody else or what you can take. At the bottom of the flyer, it has the address for where our donation drop-off is at. It does say 1st and 4th. It's 2nd and 4th, I'm sorry. It was a typo, we didn't catch it. So just so you know that. The last one is, this is a great postcard and has lots of valuable information on the back, and it's a lot of what I'm going to be talking about today. So you guys can have that, and I also have a business card there if you guys would like to reach out and contact me, okay? So a little bit about who KBC is. We're a foster care agency that's been licensed through the state of Kansas. We serve 15,000 children and families per year through multiple different services. We have our case management services. We have our family reunification services. We have family therapy. We have my team that does the family support and recruitment. We also have our aftercare and our adoption teams as well. So each year there's a report, or each year DCF gets a report of 35,000 children being neglected or abused. So they have to go out and check those, each one of those, investigate it and see if it's legit or if it's, something that we can maybe try to resolve through like a safety plan or something to try to help them and provide like family preservation services to them. At that point, they'll determine whether or not the child's going to come into state care. Our numbers are dropping. Currently, we have approximately 6,100 kids in the state that are in foster care. That has gone down tremendously from what it has. Just a few years ago, we were at 7,500 kids in foster care. So those numbers are really going down, and we're glad to see it. Are we concerned that we're missing something somewhere? But it seems to be that maybe COVID has made parents more responsible, has more families staying home, working, a hybrid or work from home environment. So it's like keeping the children at home safer now. But they're going down. In Johnson County, we have approximately 460 kids in care. That fluctuates often, but we serve those here in Johnson County alone. We have a need for 200 beds, and when I say need for 200 beds, that's how many beds we need you guys to provide for our kids to sleep in at night. I don't want you to bring me all your mattresses. I want to have a place for all that. But 200 beds that we need to ensure that each one of our children has a long-term placement each night. And they're not shifting from bed to bed and waiting for a long-term placement to come in for them. So we really just want to have our kids in one stable environment where they're not shifting. We're not sitting in our offices waiting for a place to go, because it's not good for them to have to sit around and wait, and they need a safe, stable place to go.
Randy, do you know about how many foster families you have right now?
We are at about 165, I think is where we're at. But there's a lot of kids, I mean, there's a lot of kids. And we, honestly, that's here in Johnson County, but Johnson County families also take from our rural areas that have less foster families. So we bring lots of kids in from our rural areas, or Topeka has high numbers in foster families. I think they have like 800 kids in foster care right now, and not near enough foster homes there. So a lot of our families take the overflow from the kids from Topeka also. So we're always actively recruiting. You know, we've got a huge metro area. Johnson County is huge, so we're just trying to bring more and more foster families in to help the kids. So we're going to talk about the 4 powerful ways you can help. Okay, so we can hand out the slides if you want. I printed off slides. Girls, you want to pass those out to them? Just so you can see them. Looks like she's probably missed some slides too, so.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Just the 11-year-old one.
That's weird. Okay. So while they're handing those out, I'll talk to you guys kind of about how the foster care system works. So once they get that referral, DCF will go out and investigate. They'll determine whether or not they are going to try and preserve the home. If not, they do come into foster care. Our team, as soon as we know that they're going to be coming into foster care, we are diligently looking all over the place, trying to find a relative placement or some home the children already know. It could be like the child's best friend's parents, it could be the neighbor, it could be a teacher, anybody that they potentially had a relationship with. We try to connect them with them before we put them into a foster home. It's traumatic. Like, put yourselves in this situation. Would you want to come to my house tonight, sleep in my spare bedroom, take a shower in my house, and you just met me today? Probably not. And that's what our kids go through. So we try our best to put them with somebody they already know, just to kind of, lower that trauma that they face. So that's one of the things we do. If not, at that point, they're going to go into a foster home. We look for families that are close to the area where these children go to school already, because again, we're trying to provide as much normalcy as possible. If they can be in the same school with their same friends, that's one less thing that they've lost. So we're always trying to find a family nearby where they are to try to get them into a home. Our goal is, I hate to say this number because it seems so horrible. Our goal now is to get children out of foster care within 2 years. A lot of it takes 3 or longer years, sadly. A lot of that has to do with the backup of the courts from COVID. Like, they're still really backed up from that, and getting the kids in to see judges, and even scheduling visits with families are still difficult, and it's just a hard process to get everything aligned. So it does take a long time. We hate that. We want those children home as soon as possible. And many years ago, it was 12 to 18 months, and I was like, it's not too bad, but it's now way longer, and it's sad. Got my slides to I don't know what's next. So then if a child gets to a point where they aren't going to go home, we're not going to be able to reunify them, get them back home with their parents. At that point, we start seeking out adoption resources. Each family would review the child's case file, see everything about them, and determine whether or not that would be a good fit for their home. That process is also a very long process, but we don't want our child to go to a home and then turn around and come back into foster care because it didn't work out. So we try really hard to make sure that we are finding the best match for the child, that it's going to be a forever placement for them. Right now we have approximately 400 kids seeking adoptive resources. I will be honest with you, a lot of those kids are going to be in large sibling sets. So you're going to have an age range from young to old, or older, maybe teenage age. It's a lot of special needs children or medically fragile children, and it's a lot of teenagers. So those are the kids that really need somebody to provide them a forever home. Somebody that, if they age out of the system, they have a home to go to at Christmas time. Or if they go to college, they have a home to come home during spring break. So we're really trying to find those adoptive resources for these kids, because I can't imagine, it's Christmas time and I have nowhere to go. I mean, it's really sad. So we're looking
What's
definitely.
surprising too is that you can see their pictures and read about them online. AdoptKansasKids.org, adoptkansaskids.org, and there are the children's pictures and their bios and often a video. And they're waiting for adopted homes. So, I mean, just spread the word and pray for them, because
We usually put 2 in our newsletters that go out. Wish we could put them all.
Yes, yes. So I didn't mention, like, our biggest needs in foster parents right now, which kind of goes with same with adoption, is teens, medically fragile children, and children with special needs, because some of those kids, they require somebody to be home with them, all the time. So it's going to be a home where one of the parents is not working. And our teenagers, they got a bad rep, and it just has never gone away. And everybody thinks our teens are bad, but a lot of time they just need some stability and a little love and someone that will listen to their, what they're going through. And they're not bad kids, but they just have that bad rep. So we are always looking and recruiting for those special families that are willing to do that. So now I'm going to talk to you more about being a foster parent. You take the foster parent class. It's 30 hours. It's 3 hours a week for 10 weeks. You have to be 21 years of age to be a foster parent. Sorry. So you have to be 21 years of age to be a foster parent. You have to be above the poverty line. We ask that you would have the ability to get them to visits and get them to train to medical procedures and different things that they have. A lot of our visits, they happen pretty often, so we need somebody that has reliable transportation. And then also just trying to find somebody close to that area where the kids are is something that's big. Service, different things we offer to our families. We have someone that's on call 24/7 that's able to help with any situations you come across and need help with. We do a resource family conference once a year or every 8 months that we provide. A speaker comes out, does all these different presentations. The families get to stay in a hotel if they're within 60 miles of the metro. They get to stay in a hotel, they get to go swimming, the local kids get to go swimming also. And then the next day we take the kids out and do something fun with them where the parents get to have lunch and do the speakers and just have time to connect with each other. One of the things we found that's missing, especially since COVID, is connection. So we're really trying to connect our families more, just because they're a great resource to each other. So we're figuring out ways to better connect those families. So the next thing I want to talk about is volunteers. That's one of our other big needs. Being a volunteer would be maybe coming out and participating in one of our respite nights where we need childcare for the kids, to give the parents a break, let them go out to dinner and a movie, and just have some time to themselves. It may be 6 months or a year since they've last had time to themselves. So we try to do those respite nights to keep them a little sane, And sometimes they also need that time for their bio kids. Bio kids sometimes feel neglected and don't feel like, well, I was your only child at one point, So they like to have that time where they can go spend time with their bio children too and just give them that special love that they need. Other things we do would be, we have a foster parent appreciation event that we do in May. So we're looking for volunteers to come out and participate in that, play with the kids, grill burgers, all the fun things. We have trunk or treat events that we're always looking for people to come out and help support that. Easter egg hunts, we have lots of different things. There's always something. We need backpack assembly, volunteers to come help with backpack assembly. So there's those items to come up with. The next thing I'm going to talk to you about would be donors. If you were a donor, you would maybe host a drive for us. It could be a hygiene product drive, a diaper drive. I have somebody currently working on doing summer activities. So those are fun drives to collect. A lot of churches, I know you guys have done the hygiene drive for us, and we just got that this week. Thank you all. That was a huge donation. It was so awesome. So thank you for that. We also take monetary donations, like sponsorships for events. We host the Christmas party, which I want to talk to you guys about. We're hosting a Christmas party. That would be an awesome way to get involved. Also, you could do our monthly donation drop-off, like I mentioned in the folder. You can donate clothes. I do want to mention, when donating clothes, please consider who you're donating to. If you're donating adult clothes, please give clothes that teenagers will wear. I get a lot of clothes that I would wear, and they're like, we won't wear that. So my clothes are not cool enough. And I'm like, I'm old? No, I'm old. But they don't want my clothes. So think of that. Also think about the quality of the clothes you're bringing to us. At KBC, my workers work really hard to build these children up. We're trying to build their self-esteem and make them feel better about themselves because they've been through a lot. So we work hard to give them clothes like their classmates wear. We want them to have the same types of clothing so they fit in, because they've always probably not fit in before. So we want to help provide them some clothing so they do, feel like they're wearing what the other kids, and maybe feel worthy, because I think sometimes, they've had to wear ratty clothes or woolly clothes that's been passed down from siblings, and maybe they don't feel worthy. So that's important for us with our donations. And anything we get that we don't think will work with the kids, we do pass on to other nonprofits that can utilize them. But just wanted to point that out, because we do get a lot of great grandma's clothes. So I wanted to bring that up. And then the last thing I really want to talk to you guys about is just advocating for KBC and our children. You can do so many different ways of getting involved in advocating. You can go out and like our KBC Kansas page. If you go to Facebook and like our KBC Kansas page, we're always showing our children that need adoption. We're also showing some of the needs that were maybe lacking at the time. So please share those out for us. If you're at a meeting and you guys are talking about, well, we're going to do a service project this year, please think of KBC for that service project. There's lots of things that we could come up with to get you guys involved and help with that. Another thing, and I know this is a very sensitive topic, but another thing you could do is if you hear a couple that's having troubles having children, maybe mention, there is the option, to be a foster parent. There's lots of kids that need homes also. And just think about our kids in things you do, like in your daily things you do. If you see if you see a clearance sale at Walmart on underwear, please think of my kids. Again, no tidy whities, no granny panties. But yeah, those types of ways, just always think of, ways that you guys can get involved to help with the kids. My card is in there, you guys can call me anytime. I'd like to see a show of hands and how many people want to be a foster parent. Wait till after Melissa.
Oh, that's
Okay. All right, I think that's all for me. Do you guys have any, do we want to do questions later, or you want to do this?
We probably should do them later. So
Okay.
we have a lot to cover.
Okay, sounds good.
Melissa Larson, take the floor.
Okay, hi guys. Well, Susie asked me to come. I really don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm just gonna kind of tell you a little bit about our story. Our family's been a foster family for 8 years. We have had, I think, 48 kiddos through our home. We currently I have 4 bio kids. Here's one with me, she's stuck with me tonight. And then I have 5 foster kids right now, so I currently have 9 kiddos. We've kind of varied our age ranges. When my kids were littler, we had littler kids, and now we're kind of in the teen category. So the teens do have a bad rap, and they are, for the most part, really good kids. You're gonna get good ones, bad ones, but that's with any age. So if you guys are ever thinking about it, don't cross them off your list. We also only do sibling groups, because that's always had a soft spot in my heart, just because I can't imagine if my kids were split up, they lose everything, and then there's many homes that will take one kid, which is great, it's amazing, but for me, if we're able to take 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, we'll take them just to kind of keep them together so they're not split up, which is just kind of what we've done. When we first started, it was, I went and asked my husband, hey, have you ever thought about foster care? No. Do you want to think about it? No. Okay. I kind of let it simmer for a little bit, a month or 2. I kind of went back, I don't know if I told you the story. Asked him again, did you ever look into foster care? No. Like, are you interested in looking into it? No. Okay. And God, kept talking to me, kept, putting it on my heart. I'd asked him a couple months later And then there was one day, I was currently homeschooling all my kiddos, it was the, like sermon, the Bible that I had read to my kids that day, and then like one other thing, they all matched up, and I like pulled them, I wish I would have taken a picture, I opened all 3 Bibles, and I'm like, look at this, look at this, look at this. And he's like, okay. He's like, well, what's our first step? He's like, we just take it one step at a time. And I said, sure. So our first step was taking the classes, 30-hour class, we took it. He's like, okay, what's next? And so, we got licensed and we, took kids. And after each kid, leaves, we kind of reset and talk about it, see what we're up for next, if we need a break, if we need a year away from more kids, how many kids, what age. So it's not, it's not a lifelong commitment. It's just something that we reevaluate after every kid comes and goes. And we've always taken on the rule that we are their spot until they reach their final destination, whether that's going back with a parent or a family member or if that's them getting adopted. So we've had some kids with us for a time. There's 3 that were with us for 2.5 years before they found an adoptive home. One of our kiddos right now has been with us over 2 years. So sometimes they do, but there's a couple girls that we have that came in January that are going back this summer. So the time range, it really does vary just depending on the situation. Sometimes the parents can get it together and get the things done. It can be 6 months, so it's not a lifelong commitment on that one. But one thing I do recommend is if people are interested is respite. It's a good way to start. You can take kids for the weekend for a week and be like, oh, I don't want to do 2-year-olds, or oh, maybe I really don't like teens. But it's really helpful for me. So Susie does some respite for me, and it's nice when I can say, my friend Susie, and they can go to her, time and time again, so they're not going to a stranger's house every time. And they're like, we don't want to go. They love Susie. They want to go to Susie's house. And so that's fun for them. And so to have just respite homes out there that can consistently do it for families, that's a good thing. But it's also a good way to start if there's something you're interested in, just so you can explore different things with just a weekend or week-long commitment on that. And then, what else should we talk about? There's one other thing.
Well, you kind of mentioned how God led you down this path.
For sure.
But you've also mentioned to me how, how you feel like that God brings these children so that you can introduce them to Christ.
That is true.
Right?
The 2 little girls I was just telling you about, they had never heard of Jesus. They came, it's the beginning of January, we just talked about Christmas, and one of their birthdays was in December, and I was like, well, Jesus' birthday is in December, and they had no connection. Even, non-Christian people still have a connection most of the time with Christmas and Jesus' birthday, but there was none, and if we have to miss church for something, they are like, why are we going to church? They love church. Their dad is out of town, he came in, they asked him to come to church with us, and so he came with us for the weekend. And so, it is, and each kid, they bring their own blessing. I hope that we're a blessing to them, but each kid, they'll teach my kids something, or everybody has their own unique qualities or different interests that they can share and learn. It's a special thing. Each kid own unique things that they bring to the table, for sure.
And then tell them how it impacts your children, their bio children, the kids that
Well,
are.
I think my bio kids are rock stars. It's been 8 years with no complaining. Lainey here said she'd answer questions later if you guys have any. She's not giving me a very good look right now. But they've been, my kids, so 8 years, my littlest would have been 2, and my oldest would have been 6. So that's all they've known. They've been very generous and open. When new kids come in, they are like, they have to share their stuff, their clothes, their toys, and when new kids come in, they don't necessarily know boundaries, and they have to adjust to the different rules that we have, and they're really good at making it a soft place to land in our home. They will engage with them if they see things going awry. This one is especially good at reading the room in the situation, and if she needs to pull a kid aside and distract them, or play a game, or have a conversation. And sometimes it's really good for the foster kiddos when they, we're working on manners with my little ones right now, and when one of my bio kids would like, please, and it's not me harping on them all the time, and they can actually learn more from other kids in the home. But I don't think it's that. Has it been that long? Okay. So no, they've been good, and they've been exposed to a lot lot more things than I probably ever would have exposed them to. Just because I do like to give them a slight background on the kids that are coming in, just so we know what their kind of triggers are, so they're prepared for what's happening. So, I mean, and they've learned a lot about, drugs and sex and all the things that, I wouldn't teach them at 10 years old. But I mean, that's okay. Like, they're learning and it's a learning curve.
It's okay,
It's okay. It's turning them into who they are, and I think they're doing okay.
Thank you so much. I wanted to vary just a minute from our agenda. I want Becky Myers to talk to you a little bit about, she leads one of our care communities, and Steve, you snuck in too, I didn't get a chance to corner you, but tell them what a care community is.
Sure. Hi, I'm Becky Myers. So our care community is a small group. We have about 8 people in our care community. And what we do is we provide support to a family like yours and to a family who is currently fostering. And so that support might look different depending on the needs of each family. For our family that we support, we provide meals, we provide childcare. So we try to do that at least once a month, where a couple of us will go and either take the kids out or just come to the home and kind of babysit for the kids so that parents can go out. They like to go out to brunch sometimes. Several of us are going next week, and we're going to take the kids out to a park and a playground so mom can have some time at home to get things done at home. And like tonight, I dropped off a meal, and the one little guy's birthday is tonight, so we try to get gifts for the kids and different things like that. And so we also support sometimes materially if they have some needs, but mostly it's just providing meals, childcare, any other support they might need. Maybe they might call us if they need childcare. If they have a doctor appointment or something that has come up, or one time somebody had to run to the emergency room and they needed somebody to watch the other kids while they had to take one of their kids to the hospital. So it varies with whatever the family needs, just so that they're doing the very hard work. So whatever we can do to really support them through that. And they've told us so many times that it's so helpful to them. Sometimes we don't feel like we're doing enough because they're doing really hard work, but they're just so happy, so thankful to have somebody, to know that people are out there supporting them, and also just thinking of them and praying for them. So that's kind of what we've done, and it's been a blessing. We've been about 2 years working with this same family, and they have little ones, so they have, but they've actually adopted all 4 of their children now out of foster care, and then they continue to take in other kids from doing some respite care, and they take in teens from time to time doing respite care. So they have right now they just have 2 3-year-olds, a 2-year-old, and a 9-year-old. So they have a very busy family. So
And that family had moved here from out of town, had no family or friends here yet. And so we were one of their first friend groups, and they were so grateful that they had someone to call in those emergency situations, and to be with them when they moved houses, so we were able to kind of bridge the gap in some of those busy times.
exactly, and sometimes just helping support them, getting kids registered for school or giving them information. Sometimes some of us know about the area and the community, and we've been able to give them some information, especially because they were newer to the community and didn't know how some of the things worked and how some of the school, kind of the steps you need to take to get into the schools and things like that. So the support might vary depending on the needs of the family, but it's been a great thing, and it's been great for all of us to have a way to support families doing actual foster care. So it's been a blessing. So yeah, they're a sweet family.
Pretty good,
Yes,
aren't
they are very
Yeah,
sweet.
thank you so much. Just 1 minute, Jim, I'm gonna interrupt 1 second because I forgot to tell you something at the beginning. Just to kind of explain how our foster care ministry is structured. We have kind of several different things going on. So one of our main goals, obviously, is to just inform our parish of the needs. And obviously, the biggest need is foster families. They also, at KDC, train people to be respite homes. That's what my family does. do some short-term and helping out foster families for a weekend or a week. So the support of foster families is what we're doing in care communities, and what you'll hear a little bit more from Judy on her Love Box program is another way to support foster families. The emergency needs come up frequently. So Brandy might know of a family who, recently there was one where a situation, there was a house fire that kept a foster family out of their home, and grandparents they were kinship placement, that's when grandparents have custody of their grandchildren, and they were living in a hotel with a handful of kids and no kitchen, and so they needed gift cards to eat out because they couldn't continue to eat out, the price was so expensive. So, we were able to answer that call, and parishioners brought gift cards right away. So things like that come up. Or we also are a part of a new, it's new to us, a system called Care Portal, where we see case managers from from KBC or from Advice and Aid or other places will say, we need this, there's a family that is going to get a placement of 3 kids and they need bunk beds. So we could step in and say, Church of the Nativity will get that, and we'll get that right over. So there's a lot of emergency needs that are coming up, and we're glad to learn about those and be able to step in when it's most needed. The drives and events, you guys have been great in supporting our parish is so generous that way. And then the other big need is connecting mentors to teens. So you will hear more about that tonight. But you can kind of see the different things going on to support people where they are. And so this is, I just thought this was neat because I finally took the time to actually count up how many lives have we touched. In this last 12 months, we've touched 324 lives just with what we're doing here at Nativity. With 100 meals in 1 year, SUVs, actually it's probably more like 8 SUVs full of donations, 7 people currently mentoring a teenager. There was a respite night where we had families come here. We treated the parents well while we entertained the kids with a carnival. We had a Christmas party. We gathered some Easter baskets and Easter eggs. And Christmas in October, we had a handful of parishioners that went to a girls' home and built a beautiful fire pit and cleaned up their outdoor area. And then emergency needs, like I was talking about, have come up. And then the care teams, which we have to celebrate those folks. There are, I would say, about 30 parishioners supporting our care teams. And then I put in there, because it was worth noting, the 4 adoptions that we got to celebrate with that one family. And then 2 licensed respite homes here at Nativity. So pretty neat stuff. And it just shows that if we all just do a little something, it really adds up. And I'm really proud of the impact that we're making. And but I won't rest until we have our own foster families to support right here.
And there's no way we could do the work we do without all of your support. Like, all these events are so helpful. These organizations, these nonprofits that are here tonight, they all help us. It's just so valuable, and we are very appreciative of everything you guys have done. You've been awesome.
Thanks, Mary.
Jim, take the floor.
Hello, Nativity.
So I've been involved in foster care since 2019 at the O'Connell Children's Shelter. Started with Ella Reynolds Gallery, who's the first year here. I was volunteering up there running art classes at the O'Connell Children's Shelters in Lawrence. It's one of the longest running, largest foster care group homes. There's roughly 40 kids, mostly teenagers, in 5 different houses. You got that right? 5 houses, 40 kids. So what I'm going to do tonight is a couple things. One, we're going to talk about one aspect of what we do up there, which is prevention. And Shannon is here to talk about that a little bit. And then we're going to talk about coaches. And one of our coaches is Roy Messick, and he's here today with the Nativity Freshman. But I want to kind of set the context of this. So in 2019, I met this kid named Shane. Shane was a squirrely 14-year-old charismatic kid. Today, he's graduating high school in May, and he's got a real chance. He's got 6 adults with him, and we're actually going to save his life. Because Shane would have been one of those kids. 40% of the kids that age out of foster care go to prison. 80% of the kids in human trafficking are foster kids. You would not have had a chance. So it's personal. When you get to know these kids, family doesn't have to be related. and our coaches and our volunteers, we just love the kids. So why it's so important to be up here with Susie is, we all started here. I mean, we had a foster care kid do an art fair here. We've done lots of different things with Nativity. Nativity was just over. We had a graduation party for 3 of the kids that graduated, and celebrated all the coaches. So we're very active with the Archdiocese, and I would like you to kind of look around and go, this is what it feels like to be in the top parish in foster care for the Archdiocese. Congratulations, that's all you do. It is, you are the leader, you're where people are trying to understand how you've done it, how you built it, the commitment on behalf of the pastor and everybody is very impressive. So with that, let me introduce Shannon. Shannon, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we do, because you can tell everything's kind of fast. So what we do with the kids, trying to help them, how to prevent foster.
So I feel like I've been given a gift. I've been at O'Connell Children's Shelter for 12 years, and I started out as a foster care worker. And because we're small and we have opportunity to do so many things, I went in to start doing prevention work. So like KBC was talking about, family is identified by DCF as having, there's an investigation, they're identified as having needs. It's not abuse or neglect, but they really need support to stay safely together. So I've also been able to do that type of work for our agency, which has been great. I think to see that from the beginning, through foster care, through our group homes, is so helpful, I think, for foster families especially, because you see what families really need. And the real push now is for reunification, but also to keep families together. And I think, as Brandy spoke about, that's why our numbers in Kansas have gone down as far as kids coming into care, because the state has really pushed keeping families, if they can be, safely together. And as Mrs. Larson, I can't remember your first name, but that was my grandmother's last name was Larson, so I remember that last name. So, like, probably a lot of what you do is you're not only parenting the kids you have in your care, but also sometimes their parents. Like, that is a huge part of it, is you're helping this family to get on a better path, and so it's a huge thing. So I just feel, like I said, I've been given a gift at O'Connell. We're small. We're not KBC, we're small, but we also train, license, and support foster families. Douglas County is where we're at, but in Lawrence, but we also serve contiguous counties, and we historically have had foster families in all of the northeast part of Kansas. So that's what I do. I think one thing I want to say, I think the bridging program that we have is a great opportunity for folks to meet kids that are in foster care. I mean, seriously, it would be like going into a public school and taking like a section of kids. You probably wouldn't know unless you knew, you know? They're very much like any other set of kids. They've just had families that weren't able to take care of them for different reasons. And so I think if you think about volunteering, mentoring the youth, if you don't really know if you'd like to foster, that's a great way to find out, like, this is what, maybe I could get into at some point. Or somebody I know, might be interested in this. So just keep that in mind. Maybe it's not for you, but maybe you have a friend or a family member who has said something once. And so I have my contact info. You have Jim's. If you want to reach out to us, I'd be happy to have a conversation or meet with you or somebody that can kind of talk more about that. But
Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's set the stage. So I joined O'Connell last March. The first thing you'll notice about foster care kids is there's not enough resources for them. So we began to watch. First, we had a group from Fairways Miners, the senior living community, come in, and we ran Thanksgiving with the grandmas in the houses. And so the kids were given a Thanksgiving meal, and the grandma, three sets of grandmas around holding hands. They thanked the kids for helping them get through the last year, because a couple of grandma's husbands died. Everybody cried. And the point was family wasn't related. So we started to see that the foster care kids had to be around grandparents. Okay? Because there's one kid that Shane I talked about, he had hair down here, and Mary Shortwood, who's from St. Michael's, would actually pin his hair out when she talked to him because it bothered her. So that's called our life coach. So every kid involved with us has a life coach. Then we saw a career coach. Well, a lot of these kids, the best job market in the history of the world right now for 18-year-olds. Right? Every kid in foster care at the age of 16, free college. How many go to college? 5%. So we put career coaches in through the kids. Then we looked at, we did a bunch of the Reds, a bunch of people ran Alpha two summers ago. It was called Youth Alpha. Introductory Christianity, the Holy Spirit landed at O'Connell, and we started to see the kids wanting to know a little more about faith. So we have a spiritual coach. And then the fourth coach, we saw the kid, we had one kid named Gabe, who went to KU. His coach was Grace, who was a senior KU. So he went to freshman orientation with a senior, and Grace was totally cool. So we started to see how the kids at Washington relate to college kids. So that's our college coach, okay? So without further ado, so I'd like to introduce you to one of our coaches, Brian Messick, who coaches a boy named Patrick, who's 15, 4.0, wants to be a doctor. Right? Come on. He's Roy's Patrick's perfect. Drum roll.
Yeah. Well, I've not been doing this for very long, but there's lots of ways to be charitable. I mean, you all know that. You can write a check, you can do a recurring monthly donation, you can be on a charitable board, on and on and on. And, you know, me and my wife have done all of those things. But what I like about it's like boots on the ground. I mean, we're talking right here and there. It's very rewarding to do something like that, to really see the people that you're helping. Because a lot of times with all these other things, you know, you go to the fundraisers and this and that and all that, or write a check. Yeah, you're helping people, but you never see them. Here you see them. So it's really cool. That's all I got.
Thank you, Ryan. So, you'll see, in about a week or so, you'll see an article in 11. So I mentioned college coaches. So the St. Lawrence Center comes over once a month. So they come over about 25 kids. They hang out with our 40 kids. It's the worst party you've ever seen to start. Our kids are totally socially awkward. I mean, off the charts. The college kids all come in. They've been to Tech with us. They have these games. Turns out that the St. Lawrence Center, one of their key values is they love to play together. Well, technically, our kids suck at playing together. So they really bring that together. So you'll see an article, Michelle, who's a senior at KU, is interviewed, and she's the college coach to X. X is 16, black kid, 5 months from trying to commit suicide. And I'm his career coach, right? He was just all alone. So you'll see, and what's that does to Michelle, who's a senior high school, senior college? Everything, okay? So a couple other things. So you'll read about the St. Lawrence Center. We have a session coming up at the end of the month at Loch Lloyd. One of our coaches is Tom Bison, lives at Loch Lloyd. So it's called Food, Fishing, and Fun. So we put them out, we bring them all 5 vans come up. They go to the clubhouse, they eat, they go out on the boats, and then we recognize them. Why do you do that? Well, one of the guys has a boat, and one young man goes, "Where do you live?" He goes, "I live up there." And the kid goes, "Well, you're really rich." He goes, "Yeah." And I started with nothing. So I'm in a Bible study out there with a group of non-denominational guys. There's 140 guys. This is the 3rd year they're doing it, okay? They meet the kid, right? So we have an open house on June 10th, and we have flyers. It's in Lawrence. It's about 30 minutes from here. At the end of the day, you can kind of see what we do and how we do it. We have volunteers, clearly. We have need for volunteers for activities. We have need for coaches. So here's kind of the net. We found, I've been up there a year and a half, and we've tried almost everything to help these kids, okay? So what we found is first, they really need people. They need people. They'll love what you love. They're going to ask you about your shoes. They're going to ask you about everything. If you say, "Hey, you want to go out today?" Yes, yes, yes. They love what you love. Second of all, they're all alone. These are the poorest kids in the world. They have nobody. Really, the definition of your O'Connell Children's Shelter for the most part. So I started up with a bunch of 14, 15-year-olds. Those kids are graduating now. Okay? Pretty rewarding. One of the kids grew up in a dog cage. He's now 19, working he sold about $4,000 of paintings with us. He's a professional artist. You would never know, because bad stuff is on them, not in them. The second thing is jobs. They're not a foster kid at work. Okay? So they love to go. By the way, they need money, right? The third is, without faith, they're not going to make it. Without faith, they're not going to make it. We thought they'd be anti-faith. Oh no. They hope God exists. They really hope God exists, because that means those first 18 years are tough. The other thing, technically, they have huge bullshit meters. So one of the things I do with my kids is they ask me how I'm doing, I think, I'm great. Wrong answer. So you ask them how they're really doing, you gotta be ready to say how you're really doing, okay? So that's kind of what we do. On June 10th, we have an open house, so come, you can come up and kind of see what we're about, and we're here if you have any questions or anything. And, thanks for the opportunity. So.
Judy, tell us about Kansas City Angels.
Hello, everyone. I'm Judy, Kansas Angels, and we are a local charity that provides, we get volunteers and match them with kids in foster care and with families to give them support. You've heard a lot of statistics tonight, I want to add to that. About 50% of the homes that open their doors to foster care close within the first year. It's a pretty big statistic when you talk about the number of homes that there are and the number of kids that there are. And a lot of those parents close their doors because they just don't feel like they get the support they need. Either this was maybe a little bit more financially that they thought they could handle. I've talked a lot about teenagers. Raising my teenagers was hard. Imagine raising somebody else's teenagers. It's something that is, it's just something that a lot of people feel called to do, and then some people take it on, and it's a little bit more than they thought they could take on. So we try to provide that support that they need to keep their doors open. You talked about how many kids go to college. Only about 3% of those kids graduate. So about 50% of kids graduate from high school that are in foster care, and only about, you said 5% go on, I think only about 3% graduate from college. Even though they get that state tuition, but maybe they don't have somebody to take them to a college visit. Or maybe they just don't have the courage or the tenacity to get there. Maybe they don't have a ride, who knows? So it's just, there's a lot of things that impact these kids that keep them from reaching their fullest potential. So we have two programs. We have a Love Box program and a Dare to Dream program that is the mentorship. Talk about Love Box a little bit first. I've been a Love Box leader to a family in Olathe for about the last 3 years. I've seen a lot of kids come and go through the home. Mom and dad have fostered about 50 kids in the last 5 or 6 years now. And she has a biological daughter. Mom and dad have a biological daughter who's 15 now, I think. So she's starting to drive and do all the things. What's really unique about our program is my husband and I, we show up every single month with something that means something to them. It might be a meal, like we talked about. It might be a box of laundry soap and toilet paper and paper towels. It might be school supplies. Or I usually buy Halloween costumes. That's super fun for me. There's 2 little girls in the home. I never had a girl, so that's always super fun for me to do girl type things. I will go babysit. Their daughter plays competitive volleyball, and if y'all have ever done that, it's a weekend-long event, so you need a babysitter from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., usually both days. So I'll usually try to help her out and go babysit one of the days. And it's so much fun. The girls and I have such a great time. We color, we play hide and seek, I take them to Chick-fil-A. And it's like the best thing since sliced bread. I mean, it's such a fun time for them and such a fun time for me. I typically don't do Christmas. I try not to compete with what she does for Christmas, but I do a New Year's package. So I do hats and horns and stuff to make a charcuterie board and different things like that. So we show up every single month. We've gone to soccer games and basketball games. I've taken the oldest girl to her basketball games when Mom wasn't able to do that. So it's super fun for us, and similar to what Melissa said, when I first started doing this, my husband said, "You're gonna do what?" And it was funny because we vet our volunteers. We're very careful about who we bring to the homes. When you're filling out that super scary KBC form that says all the things you're gonna do, and he said, "Wait, are we gonna be foster parents or are we gonna be volunteers?" I said, "No, we're just gonna be volunteers." And We have a saying that says adopt. If you can't adopt, foster. If you can't foster, volunteer. If you can't volunteer, mentor. If you can't mentor, donate. I mean, there's always something that we all can do to make the difference in the life of a child. And there's a really great group of people here that has that as their mission, and I absolutely love it. Mentorship, we have the Dare to Dream program is for kids that are ages 11 to aging out, whatever that may look like. Sometimes that's 18, sometimes it's 22. It just depends on what the child desires in their life or what they need. So we match a volunteer to do what we call meetups twice a month with the child. We really, again, we vet our volunteers very carefully. We match volunteers with kids that have the same maybe interests that they have. My husband and I are big sports fans, so if we were going to mentor somebody, we would say we want somebody that's a sports person, likes to go outside, likes to do those kinds of things. We were talking today about, fishing and how it can be so methodical and, you just find something in common with the kids and they will absolutely love it. Our program has modules that kind of guide you and we go over that with the kids and say, what are you interested in, okay? Highly dependent on their age, highly dependent on what they want to do. A lot of these kids will never be adopted. They are going to age out of foster care, right? So we will say, okay, what do you need to do to be successful? Well, I need to drive. Okay, let's talk about what it takes to learn to drive. I need to get a job. Let's talk about what it is like to fill out a job application. Go to an interview. How do you dress for an interview? Just whatever they need to be successful. You want to go to college? Okay, great, let's talk about that. Can I take you to a college visit? Whatever the kids need to be successful and reach their fullest potential. I've got flyers back here that tell more about both of our programs. And this is the second time I've come to talk, thank you very much. We did have some of the people that came last year that signed up for our programs. And it's really, it's a great opportunity to get involved. I think there's always something you can do. I would love to talk to you and answer any questions that you have. We also, to Brandy's point, we are a nonprofit. We do accept donations. We have fundraisers where we try to raise money to run our programs and then also support families. We recently purchased a refrigerator for a family that has 9 boys. They specialize isn't the right word. They focus on kids that have come from some kind of incarceration, and their refrigerator died. So we were able to purchase that for them. It just so happened it coincided with the fundraiser that we had, and we, just said at the fundraiser, this is what we're fundraising for. So we were able to go. We were able to purchase that and made a really cool connection with the plumber along the way that said, I've been praying for a way to get back to foster care. Yeah, it was really a neat moment. So it was really great. But that's who we are. Oh, we are in Johnson County, but we serve families in Atchison, Leavenworth, Wyandotte, Johnson, Douglas, Miami, and Franklin. So we have a pretty broad area. I think we have families in each one of those counties. Our goal is that every single child will have a love box, and every single mentor will have, or every single mentee will have a mentor. Really important too, I think, to mention, the kids have to want to be mentored. We do not just sign kids up automatically. They have to want to do this. So they're invested in it. I think that can sometimes be scary to say, oh, hey, here's another adult that's going to speak at you and tell you how to live your life. And we really are proponents of they want a mentor and we'll help them, again, just reach their fullest potential as a child.
really good.
Okay, thank you.
I do have a couple other opportunities that I wanted to mention. One is that we will have a small group of women for this particular project go to a girls' home to do some planting, and that is scheduled for the end of May, I believe the 26th. If you're interested in planting with the teen girls, let me know. And then another thing that we're working on piloting this summer is, and this is kind of an empty nesters club, where they might be interested in working with teens, but on a short-term basis. And there would be a little bit of training involved, but we're looking to help KBC with one-night placements. Oftentimes, the teens that are in transition, maybe between foster homes or something else, or maybe it's a respite situation even, but they need overnight stays. So it would be like a commitment for at least 2 nights a month. It would be different kids, but you would welcome them to your home and give them a bed and a meal for the night and take them back to KBC in the morning. Or hang out with them and go do something fun if that's what you wanted to do, but it would be over the summer when they don't have school. So that is something else that we are looking for, is a few people that would commit to that 2 nights a month and give it a try and let us know how it goes. So are there any questions? Anything coming up that, with the programs, or any questions for me about the ministry? Anything? Well, thank you. What's that? Oh, Judy, did you, which video? The entire video? Oh, I do want to share one video.
Sure.
Some of you may have seen it, in October
Hardest
Mass.
thing that I could say that would be growing up in the foster care system would be not having a mom or a dad, you know? Like, you don't have someone to love. You don't have no one to lean back on, you're just stuck there by yourself.
I'd probably speak for most of the people in the world, but I was totally oblivious to the problem of our foster kids. The most troubling part for me that I've realized since I've been in this job is that those that age out of foster care like Tyler has, and they're forgotten. That's very troubling to me, because we're talking about humans.
Well, I mean, I was adopted at 18 months, you know. That wasn't the first time I know I entered the system, but I wasn't in an actual foster home. I mean, I ended up getting adopted technically by my brother, but I mean, I called him my dad. After a couple of years there and in and out of the hospital from stuff that happened with my birth mom, you know, I ended up back in the foster care system and ended up going from home to home. So I didn't even have time to unpack my bags or, you know, basically lived out of a backpack until I was 18, and then I even still, you know, lived out of a backpack because I was homeless. Like I've seen it too much, you know, and it's, after a while you just get used to it, you know, you don't think about anything, you don't really think about, oh, hey, when am I going to be able to do this or that, you know? Finally just lose hope on just finding a place. Sometimes you wouldn't know what the next meal was going to be, you know, it's sometimes you just have to think of it as, you know, just trying to survive. You don't know the value of something until you have it, but you also don't know the value of something until it's taken away. See, if I had a mom or a dad, you know, I could have stayed in school and actually had good grades. Me having a mentor, no. Nobody was there to actually mentor me. I had to do everything on my own. To have somebody like Mr. Whitman, it means a lot. you know? Because it's something that nobody really ever gets in the system. Doesn't come along. And to actually have it means something. It actually means something.
That one always strikes me out. Thank you all so much for being here. If you pray about whatever your talents are, and just kind of ask God to help you discern where you fit. Give me a call anytime, or email me at nativityfostercare@gmail.com, and I'm happy to answer questions at any time. And there's some information for all of our agencies back here at the table. But Archbishop Naumann has been a real big proponent of getting the word out about foster care in our parishes. And I like when, I think he quoted Pope Francis in saying, our parishes are called to be islands of mercy in a sea of indifference. And that really hits home, I think, with this foster care ministry. So thank you all so much for being here. Thanks for supporting us.